Today, on the Flash 5, we give you 5 reasons why we like the Zhiyun crane. Stay tuned. Welcome to my channel. My name is Ty Turner. I am a former Army combat photographer and a creative director here at Flash Film Media. And if this is your first time on this channel, look, all those other channels are about ways to get better at photography, videography, editing. This channel is simply about how to get that bag, how to make a living, how to make money, the business side of the industry. So we talk about a lot of gear that may not be the gear that you always hear about, in ways in which it can help you get that bag. So I like to find a lot of companies people aren't necessarily talking about, and then talk about how you can use this no-name cheap product to help get better production value so that you can make more money. Now listen, it took me some time to even learn how to pronounce Zhiyun right, and I'm still probably getting it wrong, but if you've watched previous videos, you know that I'm trying. There are 5 key points as to why I really like this particular gimbal. Let's start with number 5. If you've ever bought a crane from this company, then you know they come loaded with different shooting modes, different features that we will list here, and you will get that on this so-called entry-level gimbal. Zhiyun does a great job at loading all kind of shooting modes, including new things like POV modes and different things that you can use to be creative with this particular gimbal. What I love at number 5 is the fact that you get it at this price point. It is a mind-blowing, amazing thing when it comes to finding a gimbal like this for cameras this size. Number 4 is simply the fact that it replaces 3 gimbals. I have multiple gimbals to do what this one gimbal do, and it's great to only have to buy one gimbal to use on something like an A6500, an A7R Mark III, and your GoPro and your cell phone. Typically, gimbals have either not been able to work with all 3 or barely work with 2. For some reason, when you create a gimbal that can carry a certain weight, it struggles with something that's much lighter. Now, you would think it would struggle going up, but often it struggles going down. I have the Smooth 4. I love it. It sucks when I use it with my GoPros, and I like to use my GoPros on gimbals a lot, because when you add in the image stabilization in a GoPro plus the gimbal, you get beautiful shots. The number 3 thing I really like about this gimbal that a lot of people aren't talking about is the fact that you can control your devices remotely. What that means is when I connect my GoPro to this device, I can connect to that GoPro wirelessly and trigger the record button and things like that using the actual handheld device. To me, that's something I didn't think about when they sent me the unit to test, and when I learned about it, I was like, yo, this is pretty dope. So that's one thing I really like about this gimbal. Number 2 is you can power your camera or GoPro via the USB port on the actual gimbal, which is pretty dope. It comes with great battery life. And if you're using something like an A6500 that struggles with battery life, this is a little bit extra battery to power your way through your day. I personally wouldn't use it because I'd rather save that battery life for the gimbal itself and just swap batteries, but the option is there if you need it. Number 1 is the build quality and the case that it comes in. The build quality of this particular gimbal is solid. At the price point of around $200, $250, it is a super solid gimbal that comes with a lot, including a very nice styrofoam-ish carrying case that I think is dope. You have plates that come in. You can probably buy multiple plates to use. I think the way it's set up is perfect. Here are some of the things I'm not too crazy about when it comes to this gimbal. They allow you to lock different points in place so you can pop the gimbal out and throw your camera back on and not have to rebalance it every time. However, those locking points are useless when you put the actual device back in the case, because to put it in the case, you have to have it unloose and set to the factory settings. So unless you're throwing this thing inside a backpack or something, which I really wouldn't recommend, it's pretty much useless. So the question is, would I recommend this particular gimbal? Yes, without a doubt. It replaces 3 gimbals, and you can go from maybe A7S all the way down to your phone, and that to me is worth it, especially at this price point, because if you've owned all 3 gimbals, you know you're spending probably $1,500 to own all 3, and for a fraction of that price, you can go from an A6600 to an iPhone 11, and it's very, very, very easy and simple to do. It's great because this is future proof. If you have a Osmo Mini, which costs more than this particular gimbal, you're stuck with that one camera forever. That one camera, that one lens forever. Whenever the world moves to 8K or whatever, may come out, something like HDR or whatever, you're stuck with that camera. You have to throw that thing out and start all over again. I actually was hoping that DJI came out with improvements for their regular Osmo back in the day, but it never did. So I don't want to be stuck with gear that have a limited lifespan. With this gimbal, you will always be able to buy a camera to throw in a gimbal. And with cameras, they're getting smaller and smaller, so the gimbal will always be functional. Zhiyun, usually, they're pretty good about coming out with firmware updates to add things. I can remember I had a gimbal that didn't have POV. With a new firmware update, they gave it to me. So they're pretty good at staying on top of improving their products. And, it's something that will live in your bag and get use forever. The battery life is great. It's something that you will continue to use further down the line. So that is my opinion on the Crane. If you have any questions, let's talk in the comments below. And let's, a lot of people use the Crane 2, the Crane 3. They went out and bought the Weeble. Tell me what you think about the actual gimbals that you have, and let's talk in the comments below.